I would like to make stress on the following assumption. Economics as science is a combination of various issues. Theoretical issue, which include definitions, laws, and techniques, whatever mathematical techniques or other techniques like curves or mathematical approach or graphs, and the determinants which affect in the phenomenon. Let us first explain the foundation of economics. It's correct to say that economics is based on two theories: theory of demand and theory of supply. Now I'm talking about theory of demand and theory of supply on the level of microeconomics. As we mentioned before, theory of demand expresses the behavior of consumer, while theory of supply expresses the behavior of supplier. The main objective of economics is to explain, is to study the behavior of economic units. Theory of demand as a part of microeconomics aims to explain and analyze the behavior of consumer. In this manner, we created about 4 issues or 4 syllabus to study the theory of demand. First, the definition of demand, condition of demand, law of demand which control the behavior of consumer, graphical representation of the relation between the two variables, price and quantity demanded, and the determinants of demand. We are looking to find the correlation between these issues to deliver the essence of the theory. ما يهمنا في هذا الفصل أولا إيضاح أن النظرية الاقتصادية على مستوى الاقتصاد الجزئي قائمة على نظريتين، هما نظرية الطلب ونظرية العرض. الهدف من نظرية الطلب هو تفسير سلوك المستهلك، بينما الهدف من نظرية العرض هو تفسير سلوك المنتج. سنقوم بتقسيم هذا الفصل إلى عدة نقاط بحيث نجد الجامع بين هذه النقاط تفاسيليتيت لتسهيل أو تسمبليفاي لتسهيل فهم نظرية الطلب. تعريف الطلب، شرط الطلب، قانون الطلب، منحنى الطلب، ومحددات الطلب. So, these four issues are very correlated, engaged. The curve of demand represents the law of demand. The curves of other determinants also explain the behavior of consumer. So, this is ground to go ahead in depth to break down the issues of the theory of demand. Okay. So, what is done behind the term of demand? Demand for a commodity, within brackets for goods and services, refers to the quantity of the goods and services, commodity, which an individual consumer is willing to buy at a particular price and time. Demand is a very significant term in economics. Refers means the quantity of goods and services which an individual consumer is willing or desiring to buy at a particular price and time. طلب يعني شنو؟ كمية معينة من السلعة أو الخدمة يرغب المستهلك في الحصول عليها عند سعر معين وخلال فترة زمنية معينة. So, consumer is willing to buy at a particular price and time. Which this is the definition. This is a definition of demand. Now, to demand goods and services, There are three conditions should be satisfied. There are three conditions should be satisfied. Actually two. Desire of consumer to buy the product. His willingness to buy the product, which is the same thing. Purchasing power to buy the product, or ability to pay. Ability to pay. إذن لكي نطلب سلعة أو خدمة يجب أن تتوفر الشروط التالية. الرغبة أولا في رغبة المستهلك في الحصول على هذه السلعة. رغبة المستهلك في شراء هذه السلعة أو الخدمة. قدرة المستهلك على الدفع لهذه السلعة. القوة الشرائية purchasing power للمستهلك التي تمكنه من شراء هذه السلعة. So these three conditions are known as conditions of demand. شروط الطلب. Let us again. The conditions of demand are three. Desire of a consumer to buy the product, his willingness to buy the product, his ability to pay the price of the product, or purchasing power, his purchasing power to buy the product. Various types of demand. But we will concentrate on three. Individual demand. What that means? Goods and services demanded by an individual. individual demand. طلب الفرد، طلب المستهلك الواحد. يقصد بها طلب السلعة أو الخدمة من قبل مستهلك واحد أو الفرد الواحد. Household demand. Goods and services demanded by a household. طلب العائلي على السلعة أو الخدمة. Market demand. Demand by all individuals in the market taken together. طلب السوق. طلب السوق expresses the demand of more than one consumer. يعبر عن طلب أكثر من مستهلك واحد. إذن there are mainly there are three forms of demand: individual demand, household demand, and market demand. These are three: طلب المستهلك الواحد، طلب العائلي، ثم طلب السوق. Now we define demand, we listed the conditions of demand, and also we highlighted the forms of demand. We highlighted the forms of demand. We need later on to distinguish between demand and quantity demanded, because this differences or this difference between demand and quantity demanded plays very significant place in economic analysis. Determinants of demand. The verb of to determine. Determine what? Determine the effect of the determinant in quantity demand. Determinants المحددات محددات الطلب. So the determinant of demand expresses the relation between determinant itself and quantity demanded. Please put into account. Now we are talking about the relation between two variables. Determinant from one hand and quantity demanded from other hand. Spite of the title of this issue is determinants of demand. There are many determinants. There are many determinants.
شفت لما تيجي في الديتيرمنتس دي هشرحها اليوم.
اوكي
طوالي كل الديتيرمنتس معناها كده.
تمام. determinant قلنا معناها محددات. هذه المحددات هي مجموعة من المحددات بتعبر عن العلاقة بين المحدد ذات نفسه والكمية المطلوبة وليس الطلب. Many times we stressed on the difference between demand and quantity demanded. So I don't like to include price as a part of determinants, but forget about price of goods and services. سعر السلع. Of course, when the price is high, usually we demand low quantity of that goods and services. On the contrary, if the price is low, we demand more, and vice versa. If the price is high, we demand low quantity. So consumers buy more of commodity when its prices fall. A fall in the price of a normal good leads to rise in consumers' purchasing power. Then here we are talking about two variables. Please consider this fact. We talk about two variables, price and quantity demanded. And would like to discover the relation between price and quantity demanded. This determinant based on the law of demand. هذا المحدد is controlled by the law of demand. محكوم بقانون الطلب. We will consider it later on. Now, the law of demand states the inverse relation between price and quantity demanded. هنالك علاقة عكسية بين السعر والكمية المطلوبة. High price, low quantity demanded. Low price, high quantity demanded. The second determinant, income, consumer income, دخل المستهلك. The fact when you gain high income, you will demand more goods and services. High income, high quantity demanded. Low income, low quantity demanded. There is a direct relation between income and quantity demanded. هنالك علاقة طردية دايركت طردية. بين الدخل والكمية المطلوبة. If we would like to express the relation between income and quantity demanded graphically, usually the graph or the curve which expresses the direct relation between two variables is upward, positive curve, while the curve which expresses the relation between expresses the inverse relation between two variables is negative curve. Downward, sloping down, like the curve which expresses the law of demand, or the curve that shows the relation between price and quantity demanded. This is as mathematical given. Acronym. Mathematically رياضيا إذا كانت العلاقة بين متغيرين علاقة طردية، فإن المنحنى الذي يعبر عن هذه العلاقة منحنى موجب الميل، يتجه من أسفل إلى أعلى. أما إذا كانت العلاقة عكسية بين أي متغيرين رياضيا فنعبر عنها من خلال منحنى سالب الميل، بمعنى منحنى ينحدر من أعلى إلى أسفل. ولذلك المنحنى الذي يعبر عن العلاقة بين السعر والكمية المطلوبة هو منحنى سالب الميل، ينحدر من أعلى إلى أسفل. بينما المنحنى الذي يعبر عن العلاقة بين الدخل والكمية المطلوبة هو منحنى موجب الميل، يتجه من أسفل إلى أعلى. Okay. The third determinant talks about the relation between the price of substitute and the quantity demanded of original. طيب. Now assume that the price of Kisra, do you know Kisra, of course? Equal 1 Sudanese pound, and the price of bread equal 1 Sudanese pound. Before that, let's define what do we mean by a substitutes goods, السلع البديلة. The substitutes goods share the same satisfaction for a consumer. Gives the same utility to consumer. السلعة البديلة هي السلعة التي تعطي نفس مستوى الإشباع للمستهلك مقارنة بالسلعة الأصلية. إذا الكسرة هي بديل للرغيف، فالكسرة تعطي نفس الإشباع للمستهلك الذي يعطيه الرغيف. What is substitute? Coca-Cola is a substitute of Pepsi Cola. Chicken is a substitute of meat. Colazab is a substitute of Signal, and so on. هي سلع متشابهة تماما. Bananas is a substitute of orange. Fish is a substitute of chicken, and so on. The substitutes goods share the same satisfaction, the same utility. So now we would like to discover the relation between price of Kisra and quantity demanded of bread. عاوزين نكتشف العلاقة بين سعر الكسرة والكمية المطلوبة من الرغيف. كسرة هي بديل للرغيف. This determinant states that the relation between these two variables is direct. The price of Kisra rise from 1 SDG Sudanese pound up to 2. I will forget it, and I will buy more of bread. High price of Kisra leads to high quantity of bread. Low price of Kisra leads to low quantity of bread. Therefore, the relation between the price of Kisra and quantity demanded of bread is direct. and the curve which expresses this relation is positive curve. Positive curve. Move to the determinant number 4. This is about the relation between the price of complements and quantity demanded of original. Now, for example, oil بنزين مكمل للماشين، سلعة مكملة للعربية، سلعة مكملة للماشين. الفرشة سلعة مكملة للمعجون. The relation sugar and tea are complements، سلع مكملة لبعضها. The complement goods تشترك مع سلعة أخرى في إشباع رغبة المستهلك. Tea joint relation with sugar to satisfy our needs of cup of tea. Coffee joins relation with sugar to give us a satisfaction of cup of coffee, and so on. So high price of oil, the high the price of oil, the low the quantity demanded of cars. كل ما ارتفع سعر البنزين كل ما قلت الكمية المطلوبة من العربات. To be so expensive to own a car. The high the price of complement, the low the quantity demanded of the original. Is that the relation between price of complement and quantity demanded of the original is inverse. And the curve that expresses the relation between these two variables is inverse, sloping down. Because the relation is inverse, the curve is negative, sloping down, downward. So move to the next determinant. Number 4 is price expectation, future of price expectation. Now, assume that the current price of sugar equal 10,000. Ten kilo equal 10,000. And we expect reduction of price on in November. Now October, the price of sugar equal 10,000. Market expects that the price will reduce from 10,000 to 8,000. What is the impact on the current quantity demanded, or the current quantity October demanded? Of course, I will purchase less quantity in October because we expect the reduction of price in November. إذا توقعت انخفاض السعر مستقبلا سوف أقلل الكمية المطلوبة حاليا، والعكس هو صحيح. إذا توقعت ارتفاع السعر مستقبلا سأزيد الكمية المطلوبة حاليا. This is the relation between the expectation of price and quantity demanded, the current quantity demanded. So the current quantity demanded affects by what? By future expectation. الكمية المطلوبة حاليا بتتأثر بالسعر المستقبلي. إذا توقعنا زيادة السعر في المستقبل from 10 for example to 15, I will buy more in October. In inverse, if I expect high price in November, I will buy more in October. If I expect low price in November, I will buy low quantity in October. So the relation between is direct. High expectation, high future expectation, high quantity demanded currently. Low price in the future, low the quantity demanded currently. There are others more than one determinants. For example, the community of consumers, one consumer demand 1 unit, 2 consumers demand 2 units, 3 consumers demand 3 units, etc. More consumers, more quantity demanded. The season also impacts on quantity demanded. The preferences, the mode also impacts on the quantity demanded. So here I would like to make stress on the relation between the determinant and quantity demanded. Not between the determinant and demand, no. Between the determinant and quantity demanded. Okay. Now let's see what stands behind demand function. دالة الطلب. Function is a mathematical expression. So demand function is a mathematical expression of what? Of the relationship between quantity demanded of the commodity and its determinant. So the demand function expresses, for example, the relation between price and quantity demanded, the relation between income and quantity demanded. The relation between the price of substitutes and quantity demanded. The relation between price of complements and quantity demanded. The function which expresses the relation between price and quantity demanded is generally known as demand function. Let's see, QD equal 10 minus 2P minus, because the relation between QD and price is inverse. Okay, between price and the relation between, if the sign here is positive plus, then the relation between price and quantity demanded is direct. Now, this function shows that the quantity demanded depends on price. That's why we call quantity demanded is dependent variable. Dependent variable. Quantity demanded is dependent variable. While price is what? While price is independent variable. That means any change in quantity demanded is resulting from the change in price. أي تغير يحدث في الكمية المطلوبة هو ناتج عن التغير في السعر، ولذلك نسمي الكمية المطلوبة متغير تابع، بينما السعر متغير مستقل. This very simple demand function expresses the relation between quantity demanded and price. It shows the relation between the inverse relation between price and quantity demanded. So, if price is constant, then the QD is constant. The reduction of price leads to the increase of QD, and inversely, the increase of price leads to the reduction of QD. Okay. So, summarizedly, we can express the relation between the determinant and quantity demanded using various mathematical expressions, and we can express this relation graphically also. Okay. Law of demand. Main technique in explaining economics. The law of demand, the function of the law of demand is to explain the behavior of consumer. It expresses the relation between two very important variables, which are price and quantity demanded. Now, let us state the essence of the law. The higher the price, the low the quantity demanded, and vice versa. Other factors remain constant. The law shows the inverse relation between price and quantity demanded in a certain period of time. Accordingly, the curve which expresses the relation is sloping down. Now, let me use other words to state the law of demand. The high the price. Pay attention. The high the price. كل ما زاد السعر. The low the quantity demanded. كل ما زاد السعر كل ما قلت الكمية المطلوبة. And vice versa. vice versa. vice versa. vice versa معناها وبالعكس. The low the price. The high the quantity demanded. The high the quantity demanded. كل ما انخفض السعر كل ما زادت الكمية المطلوبة. In a certain period of time. In a certain period of time. While other factors remain constant. مع بقاء العوامل الأخرى على حالها في فترة زمنية معينة. Now, if we would like to break down this law, the first part talks about the relation between price and QD. QD, which stands for quantity demanded. The second part talks about other factors remain constant. The last part talks about in a certain period of time. إذا قسمنا القانون ده إلى 3 أجزاء، الجزء الأول يتحدث عن العلاقة بين السعر والكمية المطلوبة. الجزء الثاني يتحدث عن أن العوامل الأخرى أو المحددات الأخرى باغية على حالها لن تتغير. والجزء الثالث يتحدث عن أنه هذا القانون valid صالح valid في فترة زمنية معينة is valid في فترة زمنية معينة. طيب أين يبدأ التغيير؟ يبدأ التغيير أولا في السعر ثم يترتب عليه تغيير في الكمية المطلوبة. The change starts firstly where? In the price and then effects in the quantity demanded. يبدأ التغيير أولا في السعر ثم يترتب عليه تغير في الكمية المطلوبة. The high the price. The rise of price leads to what? Reduction of quantity demanded. The reduction of price leads to rise of quantity demanded. The relation between them is inverse. Different inverse relation articulates that the curve of demand is sloping down because of the negative relation between price and quantity demanded. إذا المنحنى الذي يعبر عن هذه العلاقة منحنى سالب الميل، ينحدر من أعلى إلى أسفل ويميل ناحية اليمين. I would like to remind you to announce that law of demand usually talks about normal goods, not inferior goods. normal goods بتكلم عن السلع العادية وليست السلع الرديئة inferior goods. The relation between price and inferior goods, inferior سلع رديئة is direct. علاقة بين السعر والكمية المطلوبة من السلع الرديئة علاقة طردية. إذا زي the curve of demand expresses the law of demand. منحنى الطلب يعبر عن قانون الطلب. Respectively, the curve of demand expresses the behavior of consumer graphically. منحنى الطلب يعبر بيانيا عن سلوك المستهلك. The graphical expression of the behavior of consumer. التعبير البياني عن سلوك المستهلك. There are some exceptions to the law of demand. هنالك سلع استثناءات like inferior goods, the catastrophic goods, سلع الكوارث، يعني الحالة بتاعت الاسtarvation، مجاعات. كل ما زاد السعر من القمح كل ما زادت الكمية المطلوبة. The higher the price of the wheat, the higher the quantity demanded of the wheat of bread. يعني لاحظنا في زمان الحرب كل ما يزيد السعر بتاع الرغيف كل ما طلبنا منه كمية أكبر. the catastrophic goods اللي هي ممكن نعبر عنها بسلعة جفن goods، وهو إحصائي إنجليزي، عالم إحصائي إنجليزي، جفن. The good of catastrophe. goods of symbol، سلع بتاعت التباهي والتفاخر، كل ما زاد سعرها كل ما زادت الكمية المطلوبة منها. goods of symbol، تظاهر والتفاخر. This is known as exceptions to the law of demand. To the law of demand. If somebody asks you to express the graphic of given goods, then you will draw a positive curve. هترسم منحنى موجب الميل. Because the relation between given goods and between price and given goods is direct. The main intervention of demand analysis is made by the law of demand. It is the very significant issue in economics. Very significant issue in economics. Law of demand is the key to open the demand analysis. The key to understand the issues of economic analysis. Usually we talk about microeconomics is a scientific expression of our day life. The trade-off about price. If you reduce me the price, I will purchase more. Microeconomics can be described as expression of our day economic life. Curve of demand أو منحنى الطلب. Curve of demand represents the inverse relation between price and quantity demanded, as mentioned before. Therefore, the nature of this curve is sloping down, expresses the negative relation between between price and quantity demanded. Between price and quantity demanded. Just one look to the curve. D stands for the curve. This curve consists of various levels of quantity demanded face various level of price. The content of the curve are quantity demanded. The movement inside this curve from one point to other point means change in quantity demanded, resulting from the change in price. As you see, this curve is sloping down. And it moves to the right while is sloping down. The nature of this curve is sloping down. Is a negative curve. Why? Because the relation between price and quantity demanded is inverse. This curve or this graph actually clarify the law of demand or explains the law of demand, because it talks about the relation between price and quantity demanded. Main mathematical tool in explaining the theory of demand. Demand and quantity demanded. These two terms are different. The difference between demand and quantity demanded. فرق بين الطلب والكمية المطلوبة. Now let us use the following graphs to explain the difference between demand and quantity demanded. The graph on the left hand expresses one curve or consists of one curve. The movement inside the curve of D explains the change in quantity demanded as a result of the change in price. The movement inside the curve from one point to other point means change in quantity demanded due to the change of price. Okay, so the left graph talks about the change in quantity demanded. The right graph remarks that there are three curves, D1 or D2 and D. What is happened here? Shift of the curve D to D1 and the shift of the curve D to D2, to the right or to the left. Now, this situation explains that one of the determinants of the demand, like income, is changed while the level of price is constant. One, take for example income. When the level of price is constant. الرسم البياني على جهة اليمين يتحدث عن تغير في الطلب. ما المقصود بالتغير في الطلب؟ التغير في الطلب هو انتقال المنحنى ناحية اليمين أو ناحية اليسار. متى يحدث ذلك؟ يحدث ذلك في حالة ثبات مستوى السعر مع تغير واحد من محددات الطلب الأخرى. Now, let's return back. The relation between income and quantity demanded is direct. High income, high quantity demanded. طيب. But if the price is constant, لو كان السعر ثابت وزاد الدخل. If the price is constant but income increased, then the curve will shift to the right. From other hand, if the price is constant and income decreased, then the curve will shift to the left. The reduction means shifting to the left. The increase means shifting to the right. This we call it change in demand. Shifting of curve to the right or to the left, known as change in demand. But change inside one curve, known as change in quantity demanded. Now, usually change in demand indicates or describes the situation in market without statistics, high demand or low demand. It's quite enough information. But when we say demand increased or demand decreased, it's quite enough information, quite enough data. But when we say increased in quantity demanded or decreased in quantity demanded, this is short information. We need to ensure your information by adding the increase of quantity demanded equal 10 units, the decrease of quantity demanded equal 10 units. The statistical support, here we need statistical support. But when we are talking about the change in demand, we don't need statistical support, just to describe the situation in market. Decrease of demand or increase of demand. In the other case, we need to determine how much. Thanks